During the summer of 2018, we took venture on a meander around southeast Alaska, covering some 3,800 nautical miles over 3.5 months. We went wherever our fancy led us, and a series of videos illustrate the highlights of what we saw along the way. This chart shows our wandering course. This episode is a quick look at salmon and some of the other creatures which inhabit the waters of southeast Alaska. We head north up Chatham Strait in blustery conditions. We enter Takats Bay, where a handful of seiners are sitting out the 4th of July, waiting for a fish opening the following morning. The entire Pacific Northwest awaits the arrival of salmon, returning from their time in the open ocean. Bears, seals, eagles, gulls, ravens, orcas, and of course humans, to name a few. Here, seiners lay out large nets with the fish boat at one end and the bathtub-like boat, called a skiff, at the other, to entrap large numbers of fish. Seals haul out on the buoy, marking the approach to Petersburg. Steam issuing from the fish processing plants indicates they are fully active. We moor in the bustling harbour. The boat ahead of us is not a Fleming, but a much older Ocean 50, built at least 30 years ago. The harbour is busy with commercial boats. Lady Jane is returning, low in the water, full of fish. After unloading their catch, other boats are busy taking on fuel and ice. The multitude of fenders alongside the Santa Lazaria indicate she is a tender, a boat to which fish boats can bring their catch to allow them to keep fishing, saving them a return to port. She is filling her hold with crushed ice. Here is one of the skiffs used to deploy a seiner's net. They are carried on the aft deck when not in use. Using a small handheld waterproof camera, I'm able to film a sampling of the anemones and other life forms which make their living attached to the docks. In hatcheries, such as this one in Juneau, salmon are bred from eggs and released into the wild. After their time in the ocean, they return in their millions to the hatchery at which they were born. These fish are waiting to fight their way up the 450-foot-long fish ladder to holding tanks at the top. They can be watched through a viewing window. They exit through the narrow gate to the right. Even after this bruising battle, fish are still leaping, trying to reach what they consider to be further upstream. Sadly for them, their reward is to be dispatched, and their eggs and sperm extracted to produce 130 million chum, king, and coho salmon every year. These fish are stranded in Juneau's Gold Creek, which leads to an extended concrete slope, impassable to salmon. It has been this way for several years, so we are told that these fish have lost their way to the hatchery. These scenes are shot at a stream adjacent to the hatchery. All these fish are doomed, but this is the natural cycle. Their carcasses provide a bonanza for gulls, eagles, and other predators. These are scenes from another stream, which enters the Gastineau Channel south of Juneau. These fish are stopped by a waterfall. In Annan Creek near Wrangell, black and brown bears feast on salmon, which have escaped ocean predators and fish boats, and finally made it to the river. Virtually all the nitrogen in the soil hereabouts comes from the returning salmon, and only the wild salmon, returning to streams of their birth, contribute this important resource, vital for the health of the forest. Less snow during the winter means that streams dry up early, increasingly making them impassable for returning salmon. We see few orcas this year. They too feast on salmon. At Pack Creek, closer to Juneau, this bear is having less luck. Crabs, mostly Dungeness, are another sea creature which is harvested in large numbers. All females, as well as males under a specified size, must be returned to the water. In certain bays, huge numbers of floats crowd the waters. Long lines floating just beneath the surface are a hazard. To places, such as the small settlement of Pelican, float planes bring recreational fishermen and women to try their luck.
Open.
In this case it is halibut, black on top and white underneath. Some, like this one, are huge, caught by a visitor from Australia. This ends our brief look at some of the fishing aspects of southeast Alaska.